6,500 of you responded to the High Desert Quality of Life survey. Here are segments from Joseph W. Brady interviews as the High Desert Quality of Life survey results are processed.
There are a lot of people that want to see a change up here, but we don't want to change it tomorrow. It's really a dialogue. So with the help of John Ohanian, the master plan developer of Tapestry, with Randy Terrell, with Passantino Anderson, the help of Katrina Sieverts, Bo Gurley with Sheer Graham Carr with NAI Capital. I'm just looking around the room. We believe that now's the time to reintroduce the name Mojave River Valley out there. We've had serious conversations with the city of Hesperia. We hope to see a city council resolution in the near future that would say, you know, all we are is supporting the name. We're not asking anybody to change their views. We've had serious meetings with the city of Atlanta, with the mayor and the city, with the mayor and Stefania Evans. She was mayor pro tem at the time. There's been meetings with John Ohanian has met and Randy with Orlando Acevedo, and I believe Doug Robertson at the town of Apple Valley, and I think most of the council members, not all of them, I think are supportive. They came to a meet and greet that we had about 4 months ago. City of Victorville, we recently had a great conversation with Keith Metzer and with Sophie Smith, and then we know that there's a reluctancy there. I mean, Victorville's really the oldest city. Victorville's not the oldest city. Barstow's the oldest city. But, you know, Victorville's looked at, you know, in a very powerful way. We just had a great meeting with Nikki Salas out at the city of Barstow with John and Randy, and hope to make a presentation to their council soon. Hopefully we'll make a presentation to the town of Apple Valley. So it's something that's going to move along, but is it something I think needs to be done? Yes. Is it one of those issues that we can agree respectfully with civility to say, okay, you like the words Victor Valley. That's great. I like the words Victor Valley too. I like Mark Creffield and the Victorville Chamber have a marketing dialogue, not a marketing, but a slogan. I love the high desert. I love the high desert too. But there's 3 high deserts. You have the high desert in the Antelope Valley that they call the Antelope Valley. You have the high desert here, which part of it is the Victor Valley. You have the high desert over Morongo. And you also remember that I was always big, and I was one of the founders of RETA, the High Desert Regional Economic Development Authority, that Barstow is one of our partners. And everything we do in our region includes Barstow. And there's a demarcation line at Hodge Road out there that, you know, you feel when you go north, you feel when you go south. There's people in Barstow that have had some challenges with issues here. They go way back. I mean, long time. I mean, every time I think of the rivalries, I think of the rivalries between Terry Caldwell playing football in 1956, which happened to be the year I was born, against Felix Diaz and Oro Grande in Victorville. So I think it's an exciting time. Terry, the one thing that I hope that everybody does is allows the dialogue to move forward for the Mojave River Valley. And hopefully the Valley will come to a consensus. 40 years ago, I don't think there was a consensus to call Riverside and San Bernardino the Inland Empire. I don't think there was a consensus by anybody down in the Venice area to call that Silicon Beach. But as Eric Schmidt always reminds us, you know, he has 2 sons down there. The young millennials and engineers said, you know, we're going to take the Venice area and call it Silicon Beach. Look at Silicon Valley. So let's allow the dialogue. Let's have a good dialogue. You know, in the many early years I was here, we always had great dialogues, whether it be with the High Desert Construction Industries Association, and then it was called the Victor Valley Association of Realtors, and you know, there were always good dialogues, and there was some, you know, that we kind of fought. We fought them amongst ourselves. You remember Valley Bucks? You know, we did Valley Bucks with Jim Busby and, you know, I mean, and Mr. Williams from, you know. Yeah, I mean, Jack Williams. So I think it's something that will hopefully grow. We are changing all of our letterhead to reflect, you know, that the Bradco company is operating within the Mojave River Valley, and I hope that other people support. I'll tell you a secret. One of the questions on the survey asked the question. I won't tell you what I've seen the answer at, but there is a resounding number of people that have a strong opinion about the name of the Mojave River Valley at this point. So I think it tells the group, you know, what they need to look at in the future.
What are some of the companies you've brought into the Mojave River Valley region, the Victor Valley?
Well, our staff, Terry, over a course of years, and we had some really good years and we've had some fairly slow years, we believe that based on some old tracking numbers that we had, that we've been responsible for about 10,000 jobs in the 31 years I've been here, which I'm very pleased about. It's not all about making a commission. Okay. A year ago, we started taking a look for Apex Rentals. Randy Briggs, his sons Cody, their partner Richard Briggs, to take a look at expanding in the city of Victorville. We found a couple sites, and the first thing that we did was we went over and talked to the city. Sat down with Scott Webb and said, Scott, Scott is what I call the director of planning. He's not officially, they have another deal, but he works really close with him and Sophie Smith and Keith Metzer, and they really, I think, have attempted to change the tone of how they do business, and they become a lot more business friendly. I will email Scott and say, here's a site for a couple clients, and what do you think? We brought the Lease family over to meet with the city, sat down in the conference room and said, and here's a building. We had a great seller in Jeff Aguirre. The building was right there on Lorraine Drive and Valley Center. Building had been owned, I think, at one time by the city years ago. But long story short, with the city's help, we were able to facilitate that deal. There were some improvements that had to be done. The tenant couldn't, the buyer couldn't afford them right up front. So the city worked out a deal where they had a period of time. The next one was a company called Glass Recycling that Paul Casillo in our office worked with Don Brown with Lee & Associates. And they ended up taking a fairly substantial building that used to be the old storage building that the Whites had down on the east side of Hesperia Road between Seneca and Mojave. It sits up there on top. It's about a 5-acre site. And they do glass recycling. So they take windshields and things like that. And they worked on it for a long period of time. They went through the arduous process of the approvals with the city. And then there were some other things that happened. So they were able to come on in. And the last one that we recently did, I was personally really proud. One of the big names up here in a quality family, is the Coolies. I mean, you just can't think of a name better than the Coolies. And we've had the opportunity of doing work with Don Cooley years ago when he owned Mojave Equipment. Unfortunately, his health has failed, and he's now living back in Colorado. But he had a 51-acre property. It's right next to Hollander Burger, right there on the side of the hill, and worked very closely with his wife Terry. She's incredible to work with. And Paul had a client. Paul Casillo in our office had a client that builds concrete panels for buildings. So we were able to strike a deal with Terry's help. I think where the challenge was that property was not only on the side of the hill, but it had a lot of dirt work. And I was able to convince her, although she wasn't probably happy about it. That's probably what challenges some people to hire us. I look at things more as a developer, and I say, okay, why don't we spend a little bit of money in order to get you that money? She did. Reluctantly, she did. She hired Joe Miller with J.E. Miller out there in Apple Valley, knocked out of the park, did a great job. And in doing so, we were able to sit down with the tenant, with the buyer. So the buyer bought it, and then they've got a relationship with a tenant to build these panels. But again, we brought in the city of Victorville. So we brought in Brian Gingler, we brought in Scott Webb, and said, how do we do this? And we were at a point, at one point, where the road improvements out on D Street, so it's right next to Hollander Burger, were going to get so expensive the deal was going to die. So the city said, how can we do this without compromising safety? So again, I'm not the biggest lover of government. I personally want less government. I mean, I'd love to see 50% less, federal, state, county, city government. But there's a point when you have a great government, person in Scott Webb and Brian Gingler, who sat down with the clients and the engineer. We brought in Robert Martinez. We had Joseph Miller, and we figured out how to make a deal. So now that's the third company this year. So, one of the things that we pride ourselves are actually not only talking the talk, but walking the walk, and trying to promote the high desert region. We're working on a couple out in Barstow right now, refrigeration company. We're constantly working in Atlanta, and we've got a pretty nifty little development deal that we're working on. It's under contract with the city of Hesperia and one of the major medical groups up here to do something that you'll see from the freeway, and I think that everybody will be happy. So there's still some great things happening on up here.